All right. I think we're live and we're back. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Live with Sondra. I hope you guys missed me because I missed you. I think it's been about a month since we've done a show. But if you've been watching any of my socials, you know I've been on the road, London, Greece, all that good stuff. We'll have to save that for another show. But I'm very excited about today's conversation. And for those of you who don't know, I'm your host, Sondra, and this is the Live with Sondra show. Today, we're diving into the topic that every park and attraction and tourism destination needs to think about: how your guests see you. Now, this show would not be possible without our sponsors, Gatemaster Technology. And for over 30 years, Gatemaster has been helping attractions of all sizes run smarter with online ticketing, point of sale, and marketing solutions. They truly understand this industry from inside and out because, like all of us here, they're passionate about creating better guest experiences. So, thank you, Gatemaster, for supporting this conversation today. And speaking of experiences, I'm thrilled about today's guest. She's a creative force behind Stephanie Tassone Creative, a design and photography business that's been shaping the way attractions tell their visual stories for nearly a decade. From maps that feel like art, compelling branding, to photo and video that inspires people to visit, she's worked with parks across the US and internationally. Please help me welcome Stephanie Tassone. Stephanie, I am so excited to have you on the show. And please, you know what? I meant to ask you if I was pronouncing that right.
Close. It's close. It's Tassone. So just think like
Tassone.
below.
Oh, I'm sorry that I didn't ask that in our pre-show. That's actually something I tried to be really good about, but I was so excited to one be back here, but also to have you on the show. So thank you for clarifying that. Now, before we get started, I know we did a little bit of bio there, but we did have a conversation prior to us going live today about how you started in the industry. And I thought that was super interesting. I wondered if you might tell the audience a little bit more about your experience and how you got here, because that's always a favorite of mine.
Of course. Yeah. It's a favorite of mine too because it ultimately leads to where I'm at now, of course, but it ultimately led me to the love of my life, my husband. So I have a lot to thank for water parks, but I started off as a lifeguard when I was 18, I think, yeah, 18 years old. And
Yeah.
then from there, I just kind of loved working within like the fun atmosphere of water parks and became like a marketing intern, and then moved my way up to being a marketing director for a couple different parks. And I'm going to shout out the first ever park that I worked at was Raging Waves Water Park in Illinois, because that's where I'm from. So yeah, just started as a lifeguard and kind of never really left, and been in the industry for over 10 years now.
Wow, I love that. And you mentioned the love of your life. How did that can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So my husband's name is Eric Tucker. Some people might, he was in the water park industry for a long time too. But he had just moved from Florida to Illinois and became the director of operations at the water park. And that's where we met. And so, yeah, forever thankful for water parks. We've been
I love
married,
that.
it'll be 10 years in
I love
January.
that. I love those
Mhm.
stories. Those are my favorite stories, is the ones
Yeah.
where we find connections like that in the industry.
Yeah.
And especially in an industry, I mean, because I know this industry, you agree with me, mostly because you're still here, that this is
Mhm.
such a unique and beautiful industry in that we do have these connections and we have these very long relationships. And I have to say, like, you were one of the few guests that I've had where people were like, I want to support Stephanie and I need to pre-register for this show, and hopefully we'll hear from some of those people in the chat today. But I have to acknowledge that because I thought that was really neat. So you've obviously made your mark in this industry, and water parks is something that I love too. Water parks is something that I kind of fell into because I started in the family entertainment side of attraction.
Mhm.
But there came a point at the company where it just made more sense for us to work with water parks. And so I learned that business. This was probably 20 years ago, but learning that business and really fell in love with water parks. I'm a big fan. My kids love them. It's one
Mhm.
of those things that we never miss a season
Yeah.
as a family. So I think that's most people's feeling about water parks. So I love that you came from the water park industry, and like I said, you know, you got some fans out there who messaged me prior to this show. So uh, pop up in the chat, you know who you are. Stephanie, just to kind of jump into our conversation today, you know, I'd love to hear more about the creative perspective and, you know, maybe just getting our audience prepped for the conversation that we're having today and kind of where you see your mastery of this industry and how you're helping parks.
Mm-hmm. So I think why I think what I do for parks is so important is because there's lots of different parks out there, right? But we've got to find ways to make your park unique. And one of the best ways, in my opinion, is just making sure that how you present yourself, either with your advertisement that you're putting out there, billboards, flyers, things like that, your website, all of that plays together and looks really cohesive and nice, so that when people come to your park, when they spend their really hard-earned money to spend a day at your park, they're not surprised at what they're getting when they walk through the door, because they've already seen everything that you've put out there that looks so nice and so put together and so fun. Like, and that's a big part too, is I think making sure that everything looks so fun is so important.
Yeah,
So
I agree. I love that because I think like if I'm understanding correctly, I think what you're saying is like all that you're putting out there to attract your guests to your park should tell the story about that fun day that they're going to have when they're there. And I think that's a mark that gets missed so often in our marketing and storytelling, especially, you know, because not every park has that Hollywood sized budget. And that kind of leads me to my first question, because I know one of the things that you talk about in your work is creating powerful video and photos. And so how does a park that maybe doesn't have that Hollywood budget do something like that?
yeah, I think it's for I work with many different parks. They all have different budgets and things like that. You really don't need a super large budget to be able to create powerful imagery, videos, things like that. So, for example, whenever I do work with a park and I'm talking about, okay, well, we're putting together your marketing things, your branding things, what do we have to work with? And more often than not, a lot of parks, they're like, oh, let me dig back in my Google Drive to see if there's any photos that we can come up with. So that's where we first start is if you work with either a professional photographer or just a photographer, you don't need to spend a bunch of money. For example, if I go out to a park, I tell them I can get enough photos for the next 3 seasons if we're out there for 8 hours. So just a regular operating day, maybe a little bit more, and then you build up that photo bank, and then keep pulling on those images and things like that year after year. You're going to create that powerful imagery about your rides and attractions, the feelings that guests get when they get the park, F&B, all of those things. So you really don't need to spend a bunch of money, but you do need to work with, like I said, either a professional photographer or someone who knows how to grab those images that are going to tell your guests how much fun they're going to have at the park. So that's where I first start off when I'm working with different parks, is making sure that they have that. And I mean, it plays together with video as well. We all know that now video is outperforming photo in things. So if you've got a really strong video that you can use for social media advertising on your website, things like that, that's going to go a long, long way. And I was just talking to my husband last night about this, about building the photo bank up and video bank up. What's beautiful about the water park industry is swimsuits are swimsuits. So you can continue using those images, and they're not really, I mean, pending getting new attractions and things like that to your park, you can get a lot of use out of them, because they're not gonna like look, like super dated,
Right.
So
Well, what I like too about what you said about having that full 8-hour photo shoot, it makes total sense because you're capturing a day.
Yeah.
And so you're going to be able to market that morning, that what it's like in the morning, at lunchtime, at dinner time, and hopefully until the sunset if you've got a park that's open that late. And maybe you do it on a day. I know my water park here, they do nighttime events. Do it on a day when you know you're going to be closed down for a nighttime event. I mean, we've got a park locally that's doing like DJs and adult night, which I've not attended one of those, but it is definitely on my list of things to do. Although I'm wondering if I might be too old to be going to something like that. I might be the oldest one there, but I'm like super excited about this idea. And I don't know why, if they've been doing it for a long time or if it's something new. It's just something that got on my radar. But like you're saying, like capture all of those things throughout a full day, and you've got so much content to work with. And I agree with you on the video too, because I think what like you're saying, short form content is outperforming just regular posts on social media. And some of the things that I've seen, and you can certainly correct me because you are the expert here, but from what I've learned is like even YouTube videos are outperforming in some cases Google searches.
Yeah.
And then we've got AI. That's a whole other thing, right?
Yeah, it is a whole nother thing for sure. But yeah, I think just taking the time, like spending that one day and getting all that content is really going to go so far. And whenever you are in like the time of year where you're like, okay, well, we need to start thinking about our advertising. What are we going to do? Billboards. What are we going to do? These things. You're not like, oh my gosh, we have nothing to work with. Like you'll have a ton of stuff to work with. Make everything so much easier on the off season. So then you guys are ready to go like when the season starts.
Yeah, that is such a great idea.
You know, and it's fun too. Like if you've got like a couple different hero families in there and they've got like these kids that are just, they know what they're signed up for. I hand them a GoPro and they go to town and it's the best. Like they have so much fun and you're getting so much good content. It's amazing.
Wait, so you actually will give the camera to the families? I love that.
They're going down the slides and oh my gosh, it's so much fun. And they like act like they're like little YouTubers. Like I look back on the footage. It's so funny.
Hey, you know what? My kids would love that. My kids were little YouTubers. Now they've moved on. Hey, you know what? I have a question from the audience, actually. Yes. So somebody is asking, Christy Dillard, she's saying, what are some social media things that people do that are a waste of time?
Oh man. I don't think anything truly on social media that people are doing is a waste of time, is a waste of your time. I have a few different parks that I handled all of their social media, both paid advertisement and just like handling like the organic posting and things like that. Anything that you put out there is going to be good from my perspective anyways. I think things that could be a better use of time when it comes to social media is really focusing in on maybe doing those videos like reels and things like that, showing I know a couple of different reels that I have put together that have just been regular phone videos, have been showing the staff working and being together with guests, because I feel like that's always a good thing to show with parks, is showing how happy different employees are to be working there, and then also showing the guests interacting with them. I feel like it like gives it a more like, I don't know, I don't want to say homey, but like just like a more real version of like the park experience. So
well, I love that idea of that, and I don't want to interrupt. I also just because I agree with you, I don't think there really is a waste of time. And correct me if I'm wrong. Like I said, you are the expert here, because I do not do social media posts. I have people who help me with that, and they're better at it than I am. But from what I've learned, isn't it, you know, a lot of the algorithms reward frequency, so it is better just to post even if you aren't confident about it.
Yep. I with some of the parks that I work with, we got into a schedule of posting every single day. I know that can be tough unless you have someone dedicated to do that, but it has done a lot for park recognition, not only for people that maybe aren't like local to the area, but the people that are local as well. Like they're interacting with every single thing that we're posting, which only helps with your organic reach if you're not choosing to do paid advertising.
Love that. I love that.
So it is
No.
kind of like a pay to play type of thing, but if you really put the effort into it, it really does help. So anything that you can put out there, I feel like is gonna help your park.
Yeah, I agree. I think you just got to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I say it all the time. Do it scared. Just
Yeah.
post.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
nobody's watching. I coach a lot of business and in and outside of this industry. And when they ask me like, what's too much? And I'm like, it's never too much. It just posts like nobody's watching because you've got to stay top of mind.
Yeah.
Especially for those, I think for those attractions that maybe are watching that are open throughout the year, our seasonal attractions get a little bit of, I'm trying to think of the right word here. They're kind of special because of the seasonality. They get that like, what that mystique because they're only open during the summer. And
people are more like excited when they are posting things because they're only open for a short amount of time as opposed to
and I don't know, I kind of mentioned to you earlier, water parks are certainly like we're water park people at my house. And so it's something that we look forward to all winter. It's something we plan and we talk about. And, I've got a sister with a birthday in July and we know we're going to get a cabana for her birthday. It's something that we plan. But I think for those attractions that might be watching that are open all year long, they're struggling to stay top of mind. They've got to remind people that they're there when the kids go back to school.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so true. So I think again, with those that are open all year round, establish a regular posting schedule so that you are keeping top of mind for people who are interacting with your different social pages and things like that. Even your website, making sure that that is always updated with new things that are happening or events that are happening. So then people know that you're still there and you're still ready to have fun all year round.
Yeah, I love that. Now, I know you've worked with both domestic and international parks, and I'm curious if you've seen any key differences in the visual approach or branding across those two, from one place to the other.
Yeah. I think the only like major difference that I see between international and just staying here locally in the States is those international brands, they really have to make like a punch with unique things to do because people are taking major vacations and hitting those destinations. So just making sure that like everything that they're putting out there is maybe unique things that that people can't do if they're back at home. But on the flip side of that, with the ones that are here in the States, and I can only speak of the perspective because I am from here and I'm not like a local in the international like markets there. But the ones that are here in the States, it may not be as important to say we have all these unique things because you get the local crowds coming in and then you have people who are traveling, but traveling state to state is not the same as like taking an international trip. So it may not be as important to those people to say like, oh, I rode the world's tallest roller coaster. You know what I'm saying? So I think that was the only, like, when I was thinking about it, like the only major difference between those type of like messaging for the different parks.
Well, I think what's kind of interesting about what you said and also kind of looking at the video and the photography that is being done. Let's say that you're doing that 8-hour day, just kind of yourself in the park's perspective, knowing what to do. I mean, would you say that, and I'm just using this as an example because it's something that came up because we were looking at cabanas for my sister's birthday, was, could you do a video that talks about the different areas of the cabanas? Are those the things that you're talking about getting done during that day, like explaining what the guest can do when they're there? Or are we just taking photos and videos? What are some of the ideas maybe of, I mean, for me, if somebody posted that on YouTube, like, hey, these are where our cabanas are located. This is the view you get because I'm showing you this video. I feel like that's really powerful for somebody like me who's planning the day for my family.
Yeah, definitely. And that is like a really good content idea anyways, because that can not only be used on social, but that can be used on your website. And it's going to help clear up a lot of questions because with I also offer web design, and I can see the questions that are coming through the website on what people are asking. And the majority of the questions are about cabanas. So if you had a video out there that posted up on your cabana page that says, here's what it looks like for this cabana, here's what is offered within your cabana rental, and then have a cabana server come up and say, this is also what you get, and all of these things to really show people the value add when they do book a cabana. So I think like, yeah, there are, whenever I do work with parks, they're obviously, all parks are different. They all have different requests and things that they think are really important to their park. So I think if a park is talking about what can we do to help out with our cabanas, that's definitely would be an amazing way of promoting your cabanas and just clearing up questions that people would have.
And I love that. And our audience is made up of we have all the different types of attractions. So I would imagine that could apply to a museum or a family entertainment center.
Yeah.
Like take a video of the party rooms.
Yeah.
Mom doesn't always know what to expect. I've planned a lot of kids' parties at these events and not knowing what the room's going to look like until I get there. And that sometimes doesn't work out the way that you think it's going to look out. So I can see where not only could you use that for your marketing, but also it's telling that story of what that day is going to be like.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to move into maps. I know that's something that you talk a lot about, maps and that imagery. And I'm curious on your perspective, what makes a map more than just a navigational tool? Because I know currently that's probably how most parks are using it, but it is so much more.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I could talk about maps all day. I just, it's like my, like really besides like Waterpark, it's like my niche thing within the niche. But I really think that maps are so important because when a guest is coming to your website, they can put together maybe the images that you have on your website, all the information, but they're never really getting a full view of what your park has to offer. And that's what maps do. You're able to see a bird's eye view down on all of your different attractions, where they are laid out, and how accessible things are too, because that's super important if like someone is coming to your park and they're worried about how far they have to walk or things like that. So I think like having a map that is super clear in showing everything that your facility has to offer, but also looks really fun is like so important. And I think it's one of the things that your website needs in order to get the people understanding what your park is and also excited. And then when it comes to the map within the park, obviously that's when it becomes a major navigational tool, not only for people who are looking at it on their own, but also helping out employees point out different things to guests to make sure that they know where they're going. So I think park maps are really important. And I also I really love designing them as well.
Well, I love that you brought up the accessibility piece, because we've actually had a number of accessibility advocates on the show here. And one of the things that you mentioned, and I think you just kind of confirmed that, was that, a lot of times guests with those needs, they're not necessarily looking for you to, change the whole park to accommodate whatever needs they have. But what they are looking for is information so they can plan their day.
Yeah.
And so, just going back to that idea, and you guys can thank us for this idea later, because this is a great marketing idea. I think going back to that video, like even if you showed a video, this is how close the cabana is to the restroom if you need accessibility, or doing a video that shows all of the accessible things that, ways that they are accommodating, because, I think that is so huge. I work on a project for a company called Outlier that is focused on accessibility in film, television, and media, and now attractions. And what's interesting to me is that it's a big percentage of people that if you just don't tell them using your map how they're going to be able to navigate their day, you might lose that business. And it's what, 25% of people now have some sort of need with regards to accessibility. So
Yeah,
that's a big number when you think about how huge the market is and how much money we're losing when we just don't tell that story.
exactly. And it's not even just the people with those needs. They're bringing their family. So you're also
100%.
missing out on that as well. So I think it's really important to take those people into consideration as well. And back to your point with like doing a video and all of that. On your website, you have the capability to put an accessibility menu on there. You can add those videos to that. So if people, it doesn't need to be
I love
like
that.
on your site if you're worried about taking up space, but like if you can add those videos to that accessibility menu, so then those people will see that right off the bat, and then it'll answer all their questions, or hopefully most of their questions.
I love that. I think that is an amazing idea. You guys can thank us later. Send Stephanie a message because I think that that's huge. I think it's huge. Well, kind of going back to the mapping, I'm curious how an outdated park map, I never like to talk about the negative impact that things have, but we know that there is probably a negative impact on the perception of attractions when they have an outdated map. What do you see happening right now for those parks that are not updating these things?
I think it just goes back to making sure that the guests know what their visit is going to be like before they get there, especially those guests who've never visited your facility before. So if you're running on an outdated map, then you added in a new attraction or things like that, you're missing out on those people that might have been excited about that new attraction if you're not showing them what's there on their map. But to turn a negative into a positive, it's easy fixes. It is. Like, I have worked on maps where we started from ground zero to maps that have been redesigned over and over and over again, adding on attractions and things like that. So it's really an easy fix. You just got to make sure that when you either have your attraction there, or if you're planning on it, that's in the works, and then it's all updated. So, because if you imagine, like, if you're going to a park and like you see the map and then you're like, oh, okay, well, I was expecting this to be here and it's not anymore, or like you had this attraction, it's not there anymore, or something like that. Like, I don't know. I just think it's really important to make sure that, again, your guests who are spending their hard-earned money at your facility, their experience is 100% accurate to what you're portraying out there, your story, your park story. So
Yeah, I agree, because if you go looking at the map and then you show up and that ride doesn't exist anymore, or even when the ride's just closed,
yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a disappointing thing at times, right? Like, I have a favorite ride I like to ride, and it's for whatever reason it's not open a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it seems like a difficult ride to maintain, this particular ride. And it's nice when you're kind of prepped for it versus showing up and having that little bit of disappointment. So I can see how you can communicate with your guests these things through the mapping. And I'm curious what the process, what is the process look like for working with a park to translate it into physical space, into a compelling artistic map? Can you take us through kind of like what is that process for those? Believe it or not, we still have parks, even at Gatemaster, one that we work with, that don't have maps.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's maybe some fear around how to translate that into the map. How do we turn that into the map? What is?
Yeah.
I mean, with that, I know you probably have some IP that things that you may not want to share with us, but I'm just curious if you can help ease the minds of some
Yeah.
of the parks that are about to take this on, and what that process looks like.
Mm-hmm. There's no secret sauce, honestly. Like, I hand draw all the maps and then I digitally illustrate it. So there's nothing that I'm hiding with what I'm doing. A little backstory is I wanted to be an architect, and I went to school and I was like, I don't care about load-bearing walls or fascias, and not that those are very important, but I was like, but I still like designing and I like knowing where things are and things like that, but I like the fun aspect of it. But anyways, when it comes to park maps, the process seems like it would be daunting, but it really isn't, because I have designed for parks that I have visited before. So then I'm able to pull from what I already know about those parks, and I've designed from parks that I've never visited before. So when I work with a park, I first start off by going to Google Earth. I don't know if anyone still uses it. I think I'm the one that's still keeping that whole program alive. It's not Google Maps, it's Google Earth. So you're looking everything top down. So I first start off by looking at that, and I'm able to see a general layout of what the bird's eye view of that park looks like. And then from there, if they've made changes from that view that I'm seeing, I'm able to work with like the general managers or park owners and things like that to get new photos of attractions that they've had, different layouts of different things, and if they've changed colors with their different attractions. And then from there, I sketch it out. We have one phase where I show them the wireframe, which is basically just the sketch plus some of the lines in there. And then from there, we kind of tailor it to what they're seeing in the park, what it actually looks like and what it looks like in the map. And then once all of those lines are set up, then I just color it in and put in some fun characters. And that's basically it. The whole process takes around 2 to 3 months with back and forth communication and just me being able to get all of those details in there. But yeah, it's a pretty straightforward process. It's not super daunting. At least I hope it's not for parks that are working with me. But I think it's really important that the map is fun but super clear, because it has to be a good balance of both. So yeah, that's basically.
You're right. Like, you're communicating with your guests, so you do want it to be clear.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure there is a little bit of balance between that and the branding, and then, like you said, the characters that might be or the mascots that many of our parks have. You know, I like to talk a little bit about innovation on this show and innovation in practice. And I know we kind of touched a little bit on AI and where things are going. And I'm curious, you know, if you see AI being used to enhance photo and video marketing over the next 3 to 5 years, or if you just, you know, what are your general thoughts around it? Because I have mixed feelings on it, but I'm curious how you feel about it.
So I'm kind of in your same boat with mixed feelings about it. I do not think right now that any AI should be used with imagery, because again, it's kind of, in my opinion, it kind of misleads the guests a little bit. I feel like it's very important to show your attractions the way that they look. And also, like, AI is getting good, getting better, but still sometimes it adds an extra tooth or an extra hand in there and things like that. So like, I feel like there is a human element when it comes to creating really good imagery with photo and video, and even with some of the graphic design work that I do as well. Like, there's just that touch of human personality in there that I feel like really translates to the final product. When it comes to like other uses of AI, maybe like generating captions, things like that, like a little bit more lenient on those things, I think. But still, I think overall, like, your park is run by humans. It's attended to, like, humans come into the park. So it's like, I don't know. It's a hard subject, and honestly, it's a hard thing to kind of wrap my head around, being creative overall with having like the conversation with AI. I think it's a really powerful tool, but I do believe that humans are creative, and yeah.
Yeah, no, I can totally appreciate that. Plus, I think, you know, like you said, the guest, I like what you said about it can be a little bit misleading to the guest, right? Because a photo is a photo. Like, they can see that image when they come to the park. And I think that has impact on their experience, especially, like you said, these families are spending their hard-earned monies. It's an investment. I say this all the time on the show, you know, it's an investment to visit our parks and attractions. And we don't take that I mean, most of us do not take that lightly. We're super grateful and love the families that are patrons of these facilities, for sure, because we couldn't do this business without them. And, many of the attractions that are out there and water parks are there to create joy for these families. And I think that that is, uh, it's just something the world needs. I love
Yeah.
our industry so much. It is something the world needs. I mean, I mentioned earlier on the show, I just got back from uh, going on a bunch of different countries in Europe, and over again, I found myself looking, what are the attractions that I can visit? Because it's going to give me a taste of that experience that we're having. And then also, to your point on the marketing and the communication, and kind of understanding, what is that experience going to be like, is important, especially if somebody's never been to your park before.
Mm-hmm.
So, kind of leaving this on finding the fun. I know you're passionate about bringing a sense of fun into business. And in a world full of seriousness, and I don't feel like our business is very serious. I mean, it can't be, right? Safety is a real thing, all of this stuff. What's a simple change attractions can make to remind both their guests and their staff that we are in the business of fun?
I think what facilities can do is, I don't know, just when people, I always like think about like walking through the door of places and really like seeing like what everything is that's there, but also just that feeling of like, I'm so excited to like be here. I think having that like translated through the way that your employees interact with your guests, and just making sure that like all of your like, I don't know, your like signage and everything is just super positive and super exciting to look at, I think really just helps like feed that excitement of people that are there to have fun for that day. And this is a fun industry, so like really just like go in with it, like be so fun like with everything that your facility has to offer. I think even like down to like, I don't know, just like the little signs like that are at the park, like having like your mascot on there, like, I don't know, just making it just so that everyone who is there and in that environment knows that fun is like the priority. Because I don't know, life is tough. Like, you go to a fun place like a water park, like that's all you should be worried about, is just having fun.
Yeah, it's so true. Life and what's happening outside the gates of these parks. I just visited Epic Universe, and I know like every park listening is going to have the tools or the resources that park had.
Mm-hmm.
And I was there for an IAPA meetup, so we got like 2 or 3 hours in the park. But one of the things that I will say is just, even for those few hours, I just got off a plane from London. So, we were legit jet lagged. We left at 8 a.m. and arrived at 3 p.m. So I think that's like a 12-hour difference in Orlando, and had to be the event at 6. But, even despite all of that, all of a sudden I was taken to this whole other place. And I think that's the situation, or the feeling that we want to give our guests when they show up at our parks. And that's what we want them to expect from us. That's what they are expecting from us. And so much of what you've shared today helps create that picture of what that looks like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I do want to touch on what you're saying with your staff as well, just because I recently, last month, went to a park and took photos and everything. And we had like a few hours at the tail end of the day where it was just the staff going down the slides and stuff like that. I just had particular photos that I wanted to get. And I knew that if we sent some of the lifeguards down the slides and I can tell them when exactly like to look at the camera, we would get it. But just that feeling of like those staff members having such a good time, and like that camaraderie like within them, like, I don't know, just brought me back to like my lifeguard days and like how much fun that I was having when I was working there. I think also fostering it on that side, not just your guest experience, but also your staff experience too, is like so important, because it just translates. It really does. Like obviously the staff knew I was there for photos because I have a camera in my hand, but I was kind of looking out and seeing like how that they were interacting with their guests, and they were so positive, giving high fives, talking about how their days were going and things like that, and like, I don't know, just asking silly questions to the guests before they push them down the slide. And I feel like because they had that like fun, like staff environment, that they were able to translate that to their guests. So I think it's not, like I said, it's not just important for your guest experience, but also for your staff experience too. And I mean, I think it's great because if you're working as a lifeguard and you're in your teenage years or college years, like you're building core memories, and those are memories that are going to last a lifetime and could only help you be a positive member of working wherever else you end up working at. So
yes, I love that. And that gives us like a fresh, joyful perspective on how the work that's being done in our parks day to day, because it is, we do have to keep this fun. Look, I can tell when a ride attendant's not having fun or somebody behind the counter. I mean, I've been in parks where the people behind the counter are crying. You know, that is not the situation you want to have your guests experiencing, because they're not having fun. The team should be having fun. Yes, it's work. Work is not easy. They don't call it work for nothing. I say this all the time. Like, work is called work because it's work. But at the end of the day, like you said, you know, many of the young people who are working, young professionals who are working in this industry are developing those core memories. They are gaining the skills and competencies that they need to move within this industry. And because you are somebody who has gone from a lifeguard to who you are today and helping all of these parks tell these stories, I really appreciate you sharing your story, because like you, I started off as, you know, just somebody who was briefing people in laser tag arenas. And it's amazing because this is one of the few industries where I think people like you and me can continue to develop ourselves as professionals in this industry.
Yeah.
Every person working in this industry, every young professional has an opportunity to get a seat at the table of these parks that allows them to have greater impact and develop into whatever professional role they want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I know we're bumping up on time, and those who are listening to the podcast cannot see the puppy that just showed up for our interview. I have to mention, I'm a dog person. And I just saw you had a little corgi. I love corgis. Oh, they're my favorite.
That's my coworker.
What's his or her name?
Cannoli.
Oh my gosh, what a perfect name for a corgi.
I actually brought him to WWA last year, and I dressed him up as a lifeguard. It was amazing.
Oh, how funny. Oh, I love that. I'm a dog person, so I had to say hello. Thank you for sharing. Well, before I let you go, two things. One, any last words for the audience? And then two, if somebody feels so compelled or needs your help, what is the best way for them to get a hold of you?
I just want to say thank you for having me on this podcast or this live stream. I think it's really cool that we're able to like talk about these things within the entertainment tourism industry, and I can't believe that I'm actually like at this point right now where I have stuck with the industry, and like now we're here I'm able to like talk about it, you know. So thank you so much for having me on this show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And yeah, I just think like, I don't know, this is a great industry to be in, and if anyone has any interest in furthering any of their skills to continue in on it, I think it's a really fun and fruitful career for anyone. So if anyone is interested in working with me or even talking with me, if they have any questions or anything like that, I'm always open to help. I had a lot of people help me along the way, so any way that I can pay that forward, I'm willing to do and happy to do. But I have my website, which is my name, Stephanie Tassone Creative.com, that people can reach out, and you can see any of my work that I've done and my park maps and things like that. So yeah.
Stephanie, well, thank you so much for being here, because this show would not be possible without people like you who are willing to not only share their voice, but share their experiences and their expertise. And I feel like this show was such a gem because you gave people actionable things just here on this, you know, that they can take into their businesses today and be better. And that's really what this show is about. How do we make this industry better? Not that it isn't already great, but in order to keep the greatness, we've got to keep, and that's just maybe that's my personal perspective, but I feel like anybody who wants to continue to grow gets better, right? Like that's just how it goes. So, you being willing to be here today and to share your knowledge and information and expertise with the world, I really appreciate that. And I appreciate together as a community, we are trying to build more fun and more joyful fullness for the families and the people. Look, we got park adults now, so for everyone that's visiting,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
we've got park adults who are coming,
Yes.
but it's everybody. This is really for everybody, and the thing I think I love the most is that we're bringing people together.
Yeah, definitely.
So thank you again for being here today, and hopefully I'll see you at WWA.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for being here.
Yay,
I'll
thank
see you next
you.
time.
Okay, bye.
All right. Well, just to wrap up this show, I do have to again thank Stephanie for being here. I don't know about you guys, but I think this was a great show to come back to. I haven't been here for a little while, and what I'm most thrilled about is that we showed up with a bang, because I mean, if you listen to this whole show, there are things in here that you can take and put into action in your business, and I hope that you do, because it is these things that we're sharing on this show that are going to help you continue to move the needles in your business. And again, this show would not be possible without our sponsor, Gatemaster Technology, who's been helping parks and attractions for over 30 years. Parks and attractions of all sizes run smarter using our all-in-one ticketing and point of sale and marketing solutions. And we truly understand your business inside and out, because we've all been there. We've all been there, and we work side by side with you, and we understand some of your pain points. We understand some of the things that you're trying to improve. We understand how you want to get better, and hopefully you want to make more money. That's usually like a qualifying question for me when I'm talking to a potential park. Do you want to make more money? Yeah, we do, because that's how we have impact and we continue to do the things that we do. So I hope that you'll visit Gatemaster, gatemaster.com. And again, thank Stephanie Tassone for being on the show today. And I hope to see you next time for the next Live with Sondra. We'll see you guys on the other side. Go out there and be great.